Okay, great. I think I am live on LinkedIn once again. So hi everyone and welcome to the sixth installment of the Gen Z Talent Playbook series. Can't believe we've done six of these so far, but let's just jump straight in to what we're going to be covering today. As usual, I've got a couple of screens, so I'm generally trying to work across them. So I might be moving around a bit. And also, if anyone can't hear me at any point, please just let me know. Please do write any comments in the comment section if there's anything that you're particularly enjoying, or if there's any little gems that you take from the session today. I would love to hear what those little gems are, because ideally, even if it's just one golden nugget that you take away, that's my job done brilliantly. So please do engage in the comments, and I will jump into what you can expect from today. So today we'll just do a quick intro to me for those of you that haven't joined before, and we'll do a recap on the last few editions in the series. Then we're going to remind ourselves of the Gen Z profile and how we can leverage those characteristics for attraction purposes. Then we'll look at the why you should impact in employer branding, and what some of those pitfalls are that people typically fall into when they're trying to execute this strategy. And then how you can use EVP and employer brand as strategic enablers. A high-level plan for your employer branding, and then we'll move into a summary and close. So just to introduce myself then, so my name is Mel Kelly. I have been in talent acquisition for 15 years, and I've just set up my own business called MK Talent Advisory, which has been a really interesting few months as I navigate being a business owner. But prior to that, I was a senior talent acquisition leader at PwC. I also spent 2 years there working as a client consultant, where I was advising FTSE 100 clients on their recruitment strategies, who are undergoing mergers and acquisitions, so scaling rapidly, creating new EVPs and employer brand. All of that stuff that I've been talking about in this series is through lived experiences. Just like everyone else, you'll hear everyone in recruitment say this, I fell into it, but I'm really glad I did, because I genuinely love working in talent acquisition, and it turns out that being very curious and a little bit nosy is always very helpful in this game. But I do always look for ways to do things differently, and I do believe in putting the human back into recruitment. So I think we've become quite transactional for many reasons. This is, we've been stripped back in teams over this, particularly in the last year. And so the value add stuff can be hard to do. But I do think that the best way that we can execute talent acquisition is by being business partners to our stakeholders. And then lastly, I'm a huge advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging. I'm a cheerleader, I'm an advocate, I'm a champion. And part of my commitment to MK Talent Advisory is that every piece of advice and every transaction or engagement, that I do with my clients will have a golden thread of inclusivity woven all the way through. So that's me, why you should be listening to me today. So I've got a bit of skin in the game. And the reason why I decided to talk about Gen Z is, I think sometimes we think of Gen Z as this workforce that isn't actually in our workforces yet, but the older end of Gen Z are 27. So they very much make up our experienced hires side of our businesses. But then the younger side is, I think, about 12. So we've got some time for them to come up through the ranks, but it's we've got millions of Gen Z workers in our workforces already. And by 2030, so in just in 5 years, we will have 51 million globally. So I really think it's important that we understand what attracts them into our business. We need to know what's important to them. And that's just like we've done with millennials, with Gen X and boomers. We need to understand them so that we can adapt and adjust accordingly. Now, they're the most diverse generation yet as well. So they've grown up in a digital world and they're bringing new perspectives, new ideas, different expectations about the ways of working. And all of this is great and will really help drive things forward. And especially as technology is advancing, these digital natives are going to be absolutely necessary to the growth of your business. So that is the intro and why I decided to talk about Gen Z. And then I'm just going to make me smaller, my slides bigger, so that you can actually read what's on the slides now. So bear with me in case I mess this up. Okay, there we go. That was easy. So to recap what we've gone through in the series so far. So we've been on quite a journey. For those of you that have joined me in all of them, we've really started to layer up our recruitment strategy for Gen Z talent. And that's been based on having a really clear understanding of that target audience and also knowing how to track the success correctly. So where in our process do we have the opportunity to see how we're doing? How can we optimize what we're doing to really resonate with this generation? And so just as a reminder in terms of some of the things that we've gone through, so I've taken some screenshots of some of the sessions and the articles that I've released now. So we started off the series talking about the recruitment trends for 2025. So what you really need to know about within the talent landscape. And then what we did is looked at our Gen Z profile and said, okay, well, how can we leverage these trends to help us engage with Gen Z? Then we looked at how you can optimize your recruitment process. So we looked at the hidden opportunities and data points within your recruitment process, which will help to support decisions using data and identify opportunities for improvement. Then we looked at the candidate journey, which I wrote an article on, and I do have a newsletter. It goes out bi-weekly. So if you're not signed up to it, please sign up for it. So I've got lots of interesting things to say, of course. But in this article, I highlighted how you can identify the moments that matter in a candidate's journey and how and highlighted how if you know your process and stages inside out and understand what your candidates want, you can really optimize that journey to make the best in class experience for them. So that's super, super important. And look, that's not just for Gen Z, that's for anybody. But what we've done is take the profile of Gen Z and made sure that we are amplifying certain areas of that journey to really matter to them. And then the inclusive hiring live, that was jam-packed with insights and practical advice from me on how you can incorporate more inclusivity into your hiring processes and why updating your process isn't enough. You can't just update your process and expect inclusivity or diversity to happen. You have to have collaborative advocacy across your company and across your hiring teams if you really want to make a difference and have long-lasting change. This is from my own experience of trying everything and realizing that without advocates within the business and people championing this particular topic, we weren't really going to get anywhere, even with our best efforts. And then the last article that I wrote was about how we can use technology and AI to accelerate recruitment, how to create a digital recruitment process that resonates with Gen Z, and also how we use AI and automation to really speed up the hiring process, and then what data is available within your tech stack to help drive strategic decisions. So as I say, we've covered loads and we've been really building that strategy for this particular group. And today we're going to jump into actually the final topic of this series. This is the last live I'm going to do in this particular one or particular theme. I will be releasing a new series later on, but I will let you know about that later. So let's dive into employer branding and how you can craft your identity to attract the talent you want. But before I jump into that, I just want to talk about characteristics of Gen Z. So just reminding us, you know, what do they want, so that while I'm going through the rest of the presentation, you can keep in your mind what Gen Z want, and how some of the stuff that I talk about is going to apply to those particular people. So, to recap, they're digital natives who expect a tech and AI enabled working environment. They're fiercely driven by their values, and they want to work for companies whose culture aligns with those values. We've got a charge of very entrepreneurial people coming through. Nearly half of Gen Z want to work for themselves someday, and so moving into that solopreneur, entrepreneur space. They want flexibility, autonomy. They want to be treated as individuals, so they don't want generic and disingenuous communications. And they're looking for real opportunities, not just a job. And so they're going to value employers who give them the opportunity to gain new and practical skills. And then diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging are definitely not mere corporate buzzwords for this generation. They will 74% of them will prioritize working for an employer who gives, who lives and breathes inclusion and diversity within their business. And if they don't see that, they will leave. So if we're thinking about some of these points, so for example, transparency, integrity, inclusion, if you don't have a genuine commitment to EDI, then just don't say you do on your employer branding messaging. Yes, you might not attract as many people, but at least you're being honest. And if you embellish your commitment, they might join your company, but then they will leave straight after because there's a misalignment, and then you just go back to the start again. So it's really important that we're really, really honest and have our integrity at the heart of everything that we're doing with employer branding. And if you're worried that going too hard on like some core values or what have you might deter some people, that might be true. But the people that discount themselves from applying to you because of your employer branding and your messaging means that they're probably not the right people for your organization because they're not resonating with that culture or the values. So I'd like to highlight as well, getting 50 applications for one role isn't always a great thing. It's like, wow, we're getting so many applications. And if the majority of them you're rejecting or your conversions are really low, then again, it's kind of a waste of time getting all those applications. So we need to be focused on attracting quality candidates that are right for you. So how do we get all of this then? There's a lot to cover, but I'm going to whiz through them and give you as much of what I think is important insight at this stage for you. So attraction is where it all begins. So we're building awareness. So what we want to do is build awareness so that we can turn passive candidates into applicants. And how you present your brand is crucial in attracting individuals who align with your business and your culture. And to achieve effective employer branding, we need to have a look at you need to look at and develop your go-to-market strategy. You want to evaluate your brand positioning, craft authentic messaging that reflects your employee value proposition, and design targeted campaigns that will help boost awareness, optimize return on investment, and position you as an employer of choice. So that's kind of where you want to be starting your thinking. And the way that I've been thinking about employer branding for a little while is if you think about employer branding as sales and marketing. So when you're looking to sell, you need to build awareness. So who are you? So in this case, do job seekers know who you are? Then what we want to do is try and move these people from being aware of your company to considering you as a potential employer. So why would working for you be the greatest thing that they do? And what value and experience can those individuals get from you? And then so what they then do is they're starting to consider applying. So they might apply for a job. That's their indication that they're interested. And then what they'll do is they'll go through that recruitment process, and they'll be influenced throughout that recruitment process. And then if you offer them a job and they accept at the end of it, then well done, you've secured your sale. And I think it's an important way to look at it, because if you didn't have sales and marketing in your business, Can you imagine having no one responsible for any of that? But it's interesting that businesses don't look at employer branding, or even TA teams that look at employer branding as really essential in attracting people into their business and selling what a great opportunity this is. And then they kind of wonder why they've got high recruitment costs and high turnover and just a really slow time to hire. And to kind of really drive that message home, I'm going to talk about these key stats and facts as well as like the cost to you or the impact and the cost to you of not doing employer branding. So increased recruitment expenses. So it costs more if you don't have an employer brand. Glassdoor stated that companies who invest in their brand will benefit from a 50% reduction in cost per hire, because people just organically are coming to you without you having to push everything through paid ads and agencies. Difficulty in talent acquisition. So LinkedIn said that if you have an effective employer brand in place, you are 3 times more likely to make quality hires, because again, you've attracted the best talent that's right for your business. So you end up with a really great candidate list instead of just a mediocre one. If you don't invest in employer branding, you're going to pay higher compensation costs. So the Harvard Business Review stated that that companies with poor employer brand will pay 10% higher salaries just to compete with their competitors. If people don't know who you are, they won't apply. So the lack of awareness by not doing consistent and consistent and regular posting and employer branding means that people won't know who you are. And 75% of people will consider employer brand before applying. And then you have more attrition because you're not hiring the right people. But if you do invest in it, then you will reduce your turnover by 28%. Because again, you're attracting the right people who resonate with your core values and your culture, but also what they'll do is add value to your culture as well. So it continues to grow, it continues to develop and strengthen. So that's the impact of not doing versus doing. And then the common pitfalls that I think I've seen companies go into, stuff that I've done myself earlier in my career when I've tried to launch UB campaigns and kind of not got it exactly right, is being fickle and superficial. Now, someone used fickle and superficial about employer branding on a LinkedIn post I did the other day, and I thought it was a really honest kind of response as to what employer branding can feel like sometimes. But going at it, this approach is where you're not going to kind of get the return. So going out with corporate buzzwords, empty promises is just a waste of time. And if we think about our prospective candidates, just like our consumers, we're more skeptical of bold statements like this. And that's not just in recruitment, that's everything. So if we're boldly stating that we are amazing at this and leaders in that, then people want to do their research, and candidates do their research. They will have a look online, find out if what you're saying is true. If they do come into your process and they realize that these are empty promises, then they'll just decide to drop out halfway through the process, and then it's just a total waste of everyone's time. So don't be fickle and superficial in your employer brand efforts. Being overly aspirational is also a no-no. I often have seen employer brand messaging that's way too weighted in aspirations rather than in the lived experiences right now. And I think it's really important that businesses, that you share your aspirations and talk about the journey that you're on and the steps that you're taking to get there. But if you're not there yet, then don't pretend that you are. Because those that want to join you where you're at now will continue on that journey with you, and there'll be great people to have around as you really move into your employer branding efforts. And people appreciate honesty, so most people are happy to go on the journey with you. But if you're not transparent up front, and then they enter your business and they realize it's not what they were expecting, then again, it misaligns with them and they're probably going to look somewhere else for a job. The next one is around inconsistencies. So basically not walking the talk. So just making sure that if you're going to start launching employer brand messaging, that you need to be consistent. You need to check your tone of voice. What do you want that to be? You then want to review all your websites, your social platforms, your job descriptions. And then once you've checked all the kind of tangible things, we then need to look at how is that messaging translated into your candidate's experience. So the moments that matter, how does that translate throughout that process? And I keep talking about recruitment being the first window into your organization, and how TA teams have so much influence as to whether someone will actually join your business or not, and or even just stay in the process or not. And I finally found a statistic, which I'm really pleased to find because I haven't found one yet, about the impact that TA can have. And the ICIMS reported that 95% of candidates agree that the way a potential employer treats them as a candidate reflects how they would be treated as an employee. So 95% of people. So that really drives home the power and the influence that we have within recruitment and talent acquisition, and your hiring managers and HR or whoever else is involved. The next one on here is a pitfall is kind of trying to do things too quickly. So looking to change something overnight, or just kind of going out with lots of corporate buzzwords and things that sound good but aren't true. So you need to do your due diligence. You need to do work on your EVP. And you need to be engaging with your internal teams and running pilots before you go all guns blazing company wide and say, hey, this is who we are. So if you do it properly and you take your time, then you won't waste time and money down the line. Not to be said that once you do your employer brand, it's set, because it isn't. It needs to evolve and it needs to be continually looked at. But your core values and what you kind of set out in your employee value proposition should generally stay pretty much the same. And then the last one on here is scripted and having carbon copy type messaging. And this is also related to your talent brand. So your talent brand is slightly different to your employer brand. And what you're doing in your talent brand is getting your current employees at the forefront of your employer brand. So there was a report by LinkedIn that said candidates trust company employees 3 times more than the company itself to provide credible information. So making sure that you're using authentic talent branding, such as employee testimonials, videos, journeys, this will increase your chances of attracting candidates. And so I would avoid doing this in a scripted kind of way, or creating standardized boilerplates to get when you're getting participation from your employees. You want to let them tell their real stories in their own words, because that will resonate more with the external market. But of course, it's got to be in line with your brand messaging. So obviously we do have guidelines here, but I think freedom in that space is really important. Great. So have I moved? Yeah. So EVP and employer branding as a strategic enabler. So EVP and employer brand go hand in hand. So what is an EVP? This is the value that you provide to your employees in exchange for their skills, their expertise, and their commitment. And a well-crafted EVP is the foundation of your employer brand. So if you haven't done your EVP yet, this is a really important step for you to complete before you start your employer brand messaging and campaigns, because what that does is, as I say, it's a foundation, and that sets your guiding principles for the messaging that you then develop, and will make sure that you've got guardrails, you've got a brand guidelines to kind of stay within, to make sure that your messages are honest and are a true representation of what it's like to work at your business. So do that. It can obviously slow you down, but you will not regret doing that piece of work in the first instance. So these are just some of the reasons why it's important to have an authentic EVP and employer brand. And this can be a real strategic enabler to, attract the right talent. It kind of it's a differentiator as well from your competitors. So sets you apart by showcasing why you're unique as an employer. It's attracting the right talent because you're going to resonate with the candidates that you want, and that's going to be aligned to your mission, culture, and goals as a business. You're going to retain top performers because if your employees feel valued and aligned with the company's offerings like career development, inclusivity, and recognition, it's more likely that they'll stay and contribute to long-term success. So that EVP not only helps us externally, but also internally as well. So then it also can shape your culture. So again, it reflects the company's values and work environment. So when you consistently communicate your value proposition, it reinforces the desired culture that you want internally for your people. And then you can use that to communicate externally as well. It enhances your employer branding campaigns because, again, as I've already said, this sets the foundation. So you can ensure consistent messaging, consistent job posting, social media, and you can start thinking of themes and campaigns that you want to run. It can also improve your return on investment. So having a strong EVP, as I mentioned in the last slide, is going to save you money. It's going to speed up your time to hire, and it's going to attract better suited candidates for your business and reduce attrition. So you don't have to keep going back to the recruitment process over and over again and kind of hitting the same barriers. So that's how you can really leverage this piece of work strategically to help with that workforce planning, to find the hires that you need, to evolve and innovate and diversify your workforce and achieve better business results. And then what I've done on this slide, I have put a little disclaimer there. This is a high level example for illustrative processes. I just wanted to show you what this could look like when you are planning for your employer brand. So what I've done here is you've got your employee value proposition, which underpins the rest of your employer brand and talent brand. So that is your foundation. And then from that, you can then kind of create your employer brand messaging. Now, starting at some of these points that I've highlighted here. So what you'd want to do is making sure you've got consistency. So having a really clear tone of voice can be really helpful. And that can help you identify the language that you want to use as a business. So how do you want to come across? Do you want to be corporate? Do you want to be not, how inclusive do you want to be? How rigid? And, it depends on your business. But this is a really important part because this is your consistency. When people hear you talking, they know it's you. And also, if you've got a really big team, then you might want to create some core brand guidelines and some governance just to help make sure that no messages are like contradicting your EVP. And just remember, externally, no jargon, no acronyms on any materials. So even though you're using your internal EVP, just make sure that language is slightly different because you remember these people aren't in your business yet. Creating pilots. This is a great way to test messaging. So for example, imagine if you had a new tech program launching in your business, or you had a brand new tech team. And what you're doing in there is really innovative. It's really aligned to the EVP, but what you want to do is really make this team stand out and really dig deep into why this particular tech team, is better than any other tech team in any other business. So what you might want to do there is create like a team level value proposition. And what you can do there is start testing that messaging within a pilot team, because that helps you then to, not go out with something that's not going to land well. And then you can look at how that translates across other teams. So knowing your audience is key. So again, this whole series has been about Gen Z, and we've completely changed our recruitment strategy just for Gen Z. It's amazing how many adjustments you can make when you really understand your audience and how you can make an impact. So really getting to understand your audience is really important. And then so basically do a reconciliation of all your recruitment materials. So you want to have a look at your job descriptions, your websites, your social media, adverts, communications that go out via your ATS system, what happens in your recruitment systems. Like all of this needs to be reviewed and aligned to the employer brand messaging that you're now sending. That tone of voice, those core values need to align across all areas. Campaign messaging and channels. So again, how do you translate that messaging with prospective candidates, and what channels are you going to use? And this is a really good place to leverage application and conversion data, where you can really start looking at how you need to diversify your channels to attract the right people. And then that leads me nicely into the end one, which is identifying your success measures. So typical measures might be direct applicants that have come straight for your website, time to hire. So how quickly are we moving, getting applications to hire, the cost per hire, the sources of those hires. And then if you want to go one step deeper, you can see your conversions from the sources. So say if you get lots of applications directly for LinkedIn, great. How do they convert? Are they the ones that are going to hires, or is that just somewhere where you throw jobs at, but nothing ever comes of it and you're not getting the right people? So that's how you can use that data, which is really important. But then if you're also using your social media channels and your website, then checking the analytics regularly for your impressions, your click-through rates, SEO, keyword search. All of that is going to really help you understand what drives engagement and what's working and what isn't. And then you can start putting some kind of key metrics on what good looks like. So hopefully that all made sense as I worked through that. And as I say, that is really high level. Those are just a few things on a page. Obviously, if you're doing this for real, it would be more detailed. But this should give you a good idea of starting points. Because then what you would do is overlay all of this with your talent brand. So who are the people that you want to represent your company? What are the stories you want to tell? How will those stories resonate with the audience? And then you kind of launch it and kind of then see what happens, really. Okay, and now we're moving into the summary. So in summary then, the talent market is very competitive. It always is, but different years and different types of markets kind of say whether it's a candidate driven or employer driven market. I think we should always be in the mindset that it's candidate driven and just always push ourselves to be as competitive as possible and not kind of sit back and rest on our laurels. So having a well thought out employer brand strategy is your competitive advantage going into 2025 and beyond. If you're not doing it, somebody else is, and it costs you more not to do it than to do it, as we have already discussed. You have to invest in your employee value proposition first if you want to kind of do things the right way and have a foundation that is a true reflection of your business to avoid this fickle and superficial approach to employer branding. People will see through you if you kind of go at it inauthentically. And building advocacy within your recruitment teams is also essential. So the recruitment team can do everything that they can do within their power, but then there's other people involved in these processes And so if you want that follow through in your process, everyone needs to be on board. Everyone that's involved in the process has to kind of get buy-in. And then, really understanding your success measures and your ROI. So then you can refine your strategy and keep refining it until you know exactly where your hiring efforts are best placed. You can work with an expert consultant such as myself, who can help you craft your identity and your go-to-market strategy. And then you can reap all the benefits of being a destination employer. So I don't see any negatives with really investing in your employer branding. It's an excellent thing to do, and it's fun. I worked with a FTSE 100 client who had carved out their business and they were setting up a brand new entity. They didn't have any overarching like the mother brand. They didn't have any competitive edge, or no one knew about them. So we developed a brand new EVP and employer brand strategy for them. We did LinkedIn Lives. We did all sorts of stuff, which made it really exciting to really start getting into the nitty gritty of what a company really stands for, and being able to kind of work with their internal employees to kind of find that out was such a great experience. So yeah, it's also fun. So that's always good. So talking of working with a expert consultant, I do just want to do a little plug for me and MK Talent Advisory. So if you want to get ahead in 2025 and be a competitive employer, then I am offering free strategy session. So you can book it directly with me via my Calendly link, or you can DM me or email me. And what we'll do in this session is firstly, it's just for me to get to know you and understand where you are now, where you want to get to. What are some of those challenges you've been facing trying to launch something like this? What have you tried and what has worked and what hasn't? And then really understanding what your long and short-term goals are, because when we've got all of that stuff, we can then identify what the next logical steps are for you. And then what I'll do is then provide you with some kind of recommended actions that can move you closer to that goal. And that's completely free. So I'm imparting my knowledge on you and to work collaboratively with you to help you find that roadmap to where you want to get to. So please do take advantage of that. I'd love to have a conversation with you. And then what's next? So as I said, this was the final live in this series. Next week is the final installment. So I am creating an article which is going to recap everything that we've gone through in this series. And then helpfully, I've created a playbook, or less of a playbook, more of a one-pager, which is your Gen Z playbook. So it's everything that I've covered in a really handy playbook, and you can get access to that. All I need is your email information, and we will get that sent over to you. So you can, again, email me or DM me. But in the article next week, I will have a link for you to register your details if you want access to that playbook, so that you can leverage everything I've spoken about in the last 6 sessions to really push your strategy forwards. Brilliant. Well, that is everything from me. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining me today. And I will see you. Well, I won't see you at the next one, but hopefully you read the article, and the new series is going to come out soon. I'm going to run a poll to see what you'd like to hear about next for the next 6 weeks. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts as well. But thank you so much for joining, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Thank you.